What's up, everybody? Isaac here, Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you on another podcast episode. Thanks for those that listen and like and subscribe and share and comment. All the stuff that helps us out in this weird corner of the internet that you have found us on. So appreciate you jumping on and listening or watching this if you're on YouTube. But today I bring a special guest on. He's a recent PE test taker and was able to crush his exam, but he had to do it multiple times. And his journey to pass was pretty interesting and unique. I wanted to bring him on as he recently passed his exam. He took our course to help him, which you can find at civilengineeringacademy.com. But his name is Justin Krishart, and he actually went to Penn State. He graduated with a bachelor's of architectural engineering with a structural emphasis, and then ended up taking his PE exam in structures. So his journey to get there is quite fascinating. How he punched through and was motivated, taking it multiple times, is fascinating, and I just think it's a unique story. So I wanted to bring Justin on to talk about his journey to become a professional engineer. It's one you're going to not want to miss. So check this one out, and we'll see you in a minute. Bye. All right, Justin, we are rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me today on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. Appreciate you doing this.
I appreciate you asking me to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you. I know you recently crushed the PE exam, so we wanted to get you on talking about that. But I always like to just kind of start this out for our listeners, for you to maybe give us a little bit of a background about yourself, how you kind of found yourself into structural engineering.
Well, growing up, my father is a general contractor in residential construction. He's been doing it probably since, I'd say, 93, 94, which would put me about 1 to 2 years old. He worked in a plant, but then factory, and he didn't really like the work, and he went on his own, and he's been doing it ever since. And
building homes?
Homes. Yeah, and he put some pre-engineered buildings up and other things like that. And I just started working with him like here when I was getting older in the summers, like starting a few days a week. And then as I got older, eventually into college, I worked with him pretty much the whole summer until I went back to school.
Why don't you take over his business?
I don't know.
He probably told you.
I don't really mind the field work, but I just didn't. I knew I wanted to go over engineering, and I was up in the air if I want to go between structural, in which I went into the Penn State, the architectural engineering, which we probably talk about that here later, but I just knew I wanted to go into something like that versus mechanical, and I had a little more background doing like construction and civil-based stuff.
Yeah, why don't you touch on that a little bit? What was your journey to getting to take the PE exam like? Because I think there's others maybe in the same boat as you, but describe that process for you.
You mean like, I'm thinking, you mean like from like college up till after it, or
your educational background? And
well, I applied to Penn State in their architectural engineering department, which is like civil, but it's a little more geared towards buildings and others like structures versus like bridges and roads and other things like civils would do. I started at a branch campus for 1 year. That program's 5 years. So after my first year, I went down into Penn State, Maine, and got accepted into the Penn State's architecture engineering. Your first 2 years down there, they introduce you into a bunch of, like, there's 4 options of structural, construction management, lighting and electrical, and mechanical. They introduce you like introductory classes, and then after your 3rd year, you decide which option you want to go. Lighting and electrical was kind of out of my purview. I wasn't really interested into that, and same with mechanical. And then construction management and structural were in two of my decisions, like which one I wanted to do. Talking to a couple of professors and people outside into the field, they recommended doing this design option, and you could fall back on the construction management option if you, say, down the road just want to get out of the office and wanted to be more down on the job site. So I went the structural option. In my final 2 years, you take structural base classes, and then your last year is a full year capstone thesis. You take a building, you start analyzing it in the fall, and then you propose a redesign of a structural system in the spring, and then you present it.
Did you have to take your FE in school? Was that part of the program?
Yeah, I actually took it right after I graduated. It just fell into my best, like a week or two after graduation. That's when I fell into my schedule. So I took it about 2 weeks after I graduated. That only took me one time. I was pretty confident on that one because there's a lot of material. A lot of it was okay, process of elimination, and you could easily get it. So now I got that. I was like, okay, awesome. I don't have to worry about taking that again.
So that FE Civil, is it you did that in, or?
I did the FE.
Or what did you do?
I did like the FE other disciplines, I think is what it was called. I was talking to a couple fellow classmates that what they took, and that's what they took was the FE other disciplines. It incorporated other things like it incorporated your basic general education classes like your math, your physics,
Heavy math,
dynamics, and all that classes you would take your first 2 to 3 years.
Was there any material you felt like wasn't covered well in school for you to take either the FE or the PE that you had to study like on your own?
Well, up until they made that change this past year with the civil engineering, the PE, I never had any class on water resources and traffic design. I was almost a newbie on both of them. The geotechnical, I took classes in foundations. We took that class. Construction management, was one of the introductory classes I had to take, like with scheduling and estimates and stuff and other information like that. And then the structural, which I know from the breadth to the depth was a difference, but all that information I pretty much covered in like strengths and materials and statics, and then you got into your structural classes.
That's awesome. So it's good to know that even if you did an architecture type of degree, you can still go this route and get your PE license. So I guess that's the next step, right? Like, what motivated you to pursue your PE then after you had done all this? Did you see it was kind of just the next step to get it, or what motivated you to get it?
That, what you just said, also in my area, there ain't too many licensed engineers. A lot of the engineers that I know are my age or within 1 to 2 years older than me or younger than me. They work in a lot of factories and plants, and they don't really need their PE. They were talking to me. They said, yeah, there's really no benefit for them. For like me, I work for it's a more or less a design build company. It's like a general contractor, but we have a little engineering department. We do primary pre-engineered buildings. We order from a company, and then we obviously do all the foundation work and design, and we'll also do custom buildings, which I've done a couple before. The customer had a tight schedule and they couldn't get them. They needed it in 2 months, where the building manufacturer couldn't get it to us in about 4 to 5 months just to even start it. So we did that, and I designed little things too, like a factory would need some like a bridge, like a little pipe bridge. They need like a steel beam running across something to put like a piece of conduit pipe or piping across to support it. I'll do like little odds and ends things there. I mean, pretty much this job I have now is a structural and instruction management based. The only thing I really don't do is more or less the scheduling. I do get a lot of the pricing and everything for the owner of the company, and then we will sit down and do everything we need to do.
Kind of a mix of a lot of stuff. Sounds like you're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
So,
it's actually where I'm at now. I actually took over a previous engineer. He was been since wanting to retire, and then he actually went to part-time consultant while I was still trying to pass this test, and now we'll still probably carry him on for some things, but yeah, he retired. He retired at an age that you don't see too many people work till anymore. He retired late in his life, but he enjoyed doing engineering, and
good for him.
Yeah.
So what was the gap between you taking your PE? Was there a time? Did you wait 4 years out of school? Did you take it immediately? What was that like?
It was 4 years. It was 4 years from graduation. Well, we take her guess the date of my pass and my result for my civil or my PE FE exam. It was about 4 years. I know initially I took the PE the first 2 times and then the paper. I had taken it in West Virginia. PA has a weird rule where it goes by the date you get your EIT certification. I worked 2 years in Virginia before I moved back to my hometown in PA, and I didn't know anything about it. You needed a certificate. Well, then someone where I worked, they said, yeah, you need just to have it. Well, when I moved back to PA, they told me I couldn't take it until a certain date, and I'm like, why? And then they said it goes by the date of your certification. I don't know what, it's some kind of logistics thing. I don't know what happened. So I took it down in West Virginia for the first 2 times, be back in October of 20, because I graduated in 2016. So fall of 2020, I was able to take it the first time, which obviously it was not successful. And then after the second time, same difference. I went back down to West Virginia. It was down on one of their branch campus of West Virginia. It's below Morgantown. I think it's called Fairmont. After that, I was able to take it back in PA in the end of 21, because that was 4 years from the date of the certificate was 27. The certificate was 2017, so it was middle of 2017. So I was able to move and take it to PA. That was obviously that was the last year. It was under paper. It was fall of 21.
So then you wanted to wait until the April changes in 24.
Well, I actually did. I did take it.
Once it was CBT.
Yeah, I took it the first time with a CBT. It would have been my third attempt. Yeah, no, actually, my fourth attempt. Unfortunately, it was not successful. Then I took it in fall of 22. Again, not successful, and I just pretty much at the end of that year, I just took about a 3 to 4 month break, and then I come back in 23. That's when actually I found Civil Engineering Academy. My boss who I work under, he was willingly paid me to. He paid for me to take the class. He understood that. He goes, hey, if it's going to benefit me, it's going to benefit you. He goes, so he paid for that, which was obviously very generous, because I know before I took the first paper, I took the class at School of PE. I was actually under the recommendation of someone I was friends with that he took it, the class too. But then anyways, going back to 23, that summer, I got the results back, and which would have been my 6th time. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I kind of made the conscious decision to say, I'm just going to completely forget to take it in the fall, and I'm just going to just unwind and spend the rest of that year just relax and just don't completely forget about it, but take it and think about taking it in 24. And that's when I was brought to my attention about the changes that they made for the spring, for the April 2024. And I decided, I'm like, I haven't been successful in the last times with the old version. I want to see if maybe I wait to take it after the change. And then obviously June of this year, I took it under the new change, and the 7 days or 5 days or whatever the amount of days they take to get your results back, I opened it up and I was in utter shock that I finally passed it.
That's so cool. What'd you do to celebrate? You read your email, you saw that you passed, and you logged in. Scream out in the hallway. Did you go tell your boss? What was
that bunch of things. I went because my office is, it's inside of another business that he owns a pipe shop. That's what they call it. They call it a pipe shop. He just for like piping for the construction, everything they sell. It's like almost like a department store almost. And there's people working there, and I went up because they know I've been trying at it too, and I went up and they all went up and told them, and I told my boss over the phone. He was actually on a project site, and then so I told him, and then needless to say, I had a fun night after and fun weekend.
Well, congratulations on passing. I have a lot of questions for you. I think that's awesome. You kept going and going. Many people would quit. So I guess the first thing on my mind is like, what kept you motivated to keep going?
Well, I knew, for one, where I work, I knew we couldn't keep relying on the engineer. That was one of the reasons is he was willingly kept renewing his license, and it's like before long he's going to want to enjoy full retirement life, not have to worry about ever coming checking work and everything else. So that was one of the reasons why. Another one is I know when passing this was going to open up broad opportunities. Say in the future, I end up no longer working for the current company I'm with. I go to somewhere else, it opens up that opportunity. I know there's a lot of other companies around here, like construction companies that need they do stuff like work, and they need things looked at, and they'd have me call, and they'd actually need something either stamped or looked at by a professional engineer. And knowing that, like I said before, there's hardly any around here that I know. The only ones I think I do know they're in another trade, like electrical or mechanical. They don't really have a structural background. Obviously, like a lot of other ones are, everyone knows when you pass it, a lot of times you do see a salary increase. So that was another option, another reason why. And through my life as well, tests haven't really been a problem with me. I mean, I failed some here and there, maybe a couple in college, a couple when I was in grade school, middle school, and high school. But this exam here was probably the hardest and toughest thing that I had to overcome. And I'm determined to pass it. It's not gonna be what I call a monkey on my back for the rest of my life. It's going to be one that I'm going to pass and beat it, and it's not going to beat me.
That's awesome. Well, that's so cool. The motivation you had to keep going, I think, is impressive. I don't know if a lot of people keep going like that, so I applaud you for doing that. And I appreciate that you found us. So that's really awesome that you found us. I am curious, how did you find Civil Engineering Academy? How did that come about?
I bought a lot of practice exams, like on Amazon, I know, and other places, and I did come across one of the practice exams. I'm reading this class, and I'm like, and I seen the write up about it, and I I just searched the Civil Engineering Academy, and I'm like, It's like, well, it's been a couple of years since I've took a class. Maybe that's what I need. Maybe I need another class with a different perspective. And that's when I found yours. And like I said, this would have been the end of 22. I talked with the owner of where I work, and he says, well, if you think it's going to help you, try it. And he says, it's worse when it's going to help me. Like, it's going to help both of us. He'll hopefully be able to help you get you to pass it. So pretty much needless to say, I found it through your place through Amazon, like pretty much everybody else orders anymore.
That's very true. Well, I'm glad you found us. A lot of people will find us in different ways. The podcast like this, or YouTube. We got YouTube going too, but we appreciate when people find us. And even if they're repeat takers, we're here to help you. So as you took the course, what were some of the specific features of the course that you really liked?
The lectures were one. They went in, they broke it down. I know I bought about, on top of with that school of PE class, on top, with this class, I think I have about 23 ring binders in my one spare bedroom, pretty much in my office. It's like, I just after I passed it, I looked, I go, oh, okay, I no longer have to look at them anymore, but I'm not going to get rid of them. But, I like that. I like the practice problems, and then I know on the website you go in there and they go through the explanation of the problems. I would first try to solve them myself, and then if I couldn't figure it out, I'd quick glance at the solution, the printout, and then see, okay, where did I get this? Where did I get that? And then I would watch the video of it getting solved by one of the class experts, and I did like those two. The practice exams were nice, especially when you added that exam simulator. I was like, that is going to be awesome to maybe give you another idea to give you like a crash course and put you almost in the exam setting at your own computer at your own home.
Yeah,
all three of them were one of the three main, but that was mainly one of the big ones.
Yeah, we love that exam. I think a lot of people get a lot of value out of it. We're trying to make sure you take a real exam before the real exam, and that gives you all the exposure of that right there. And it's even a standalone product too if people are just looking for the exam itself, but you get it as part of the course. So we're glad that helped you too. How are you able to balance all of this in your life? Like what would you say, your study schedule looked like, and how many hours you put into studying for this thing?
Oh boy. Well, usually in the winter time was a lot easier to deal with there versus the summertime, when I was all the times taking it, because winter, I do a few things on the weekdays outside of work, but for the most part, I'm pretty much when I come home, nowadays I usually just sit, like when it's cold, or weather is bad, I just come in, sit down, watch TV or whatever, and just relax and then do whatever. But when this studying, I would pretty much tell myself, okay, by say Thursdays usually were always a busy day for me, so I always said Sunday through Wednesday I like to be on studying about 7 o'clock at night, and I would go to about 11:30. And then Sundays were obviously I put a little more time in versus Monday through Wednesday. Fridays, I always just kind of said, you know what, I'm just going to take a break. It's a Friday. Maybe go out and hang with friends, do something. The summer, I usually involved with a bunch of things too. Predominantly, more or less, almost 3 times a week. When claybird shooting, we have a league in my hometown, so pretty much Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was always a busy nights for me, and it was kind of hard to come back and want to study. Like, I get back to my house at like 9 o'clock. It's like, well, do I even want to try? So usually the summer months were a lot tougher than the fall months, and winter months. But I just kind of put in my head, I have to do what I got to do. There'd be sometimes maybe I'd take a week off, like I would like heavily, or maybe the end of a month. It's like, okay, maybe instead of going through Sunday to Wednesday, let's just maybe I'll do Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, maybe take Wednesday to Saturday off, and just relax and just kind of let my brain have a break. Because like I said, in terms of the hours, I couldn't even tell you how many hours.
Well, it sounds like you're putting 20 hours a week. I mean, if you're thinking about at least 4 days that you're studying, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Basically a part-time job. And then for how many months you were preparing, you're taking up multiple times, but sounds like at least 3 months or more. How many months do you think you put into it?
Probably minimum that, if not probably even 5 to 6. I know with this computer-based, you're able to kind of spread the date, your time more, versus like the paper, you're always designated April, October. So I mean, those were a little more strenuous. Where like the computer, it's like, okay, maybe I didn't really do too well this month of like thinking I studied. It's like, well, maybe I'll push the exam back an extra month, give myself one good extra month. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It was always definitely a challenge.
Well, what do you think was the most challenging part about the PE exam, and how did the course help you prepare for those challenges?
Predominantly, I'd say the vast material you had to know. And I know you always talked about in your lectures the conceptual questions. I know them tended to drive me nuts, because you go through the exam. Whenever I did take the exam, you'd sit there and like, okay, you'd read the questions and you're like, okay, and you're trying to break it down. Okay, these two answers are no. And you're sitting there back and forth, and you have 2 answers. You're like, boy, they can be either or. Then you'd like flag it. I'd come back. I'd look at it. I'd spend depends on how many questions I didn't answer. And then finally, I just had to make a engineering judgment and go with that. And the breadth too was, like I said, learning the 2 concepts I never really seen before, except for starting to study, was the water resources and traffic. The curve problems tended to kind of drive me insane trying to figure them out. It was just something I never learned before. And I actually had a roommate who was in civil engineering at Penn State, and I talked to him about them, and he says, yeah, them get tricky. Water resources wasn't too bad. The hydrology end, that was pretty self-explanatory. The other parts, like the all that tended to be, they threw tricks at you. And then I knew the depth was going to always be a challenge. I know the codes, I know quite a few times, the codes ones, you look stuff like you had to look things up, like like especially in the OSHA standard. Them ones I always kind of thought those were kind of gimmies. It's like just look it up and your answer should be in there. There's some of the few design ones I knew they threw tricks at you, because this last one with that took in the structural depth, what I think is the depth. I know they didn't really designate the two now that you're
Right.
there were some questions. I'm like, oh, I got a number that was close, and I just said, okay, I'm just gonna go with that's my gut feeling. But I mean, all the other concepts weren't a walk in the park either. I mean, you got to be obviously brushed up on them. I know scheduling, they can throw little tricks in there. I mean, pretty much every concept they can throw little tricks in there, and
Yeah.
and you think you might have the answer. Well, you had the answer without the trick, and they put that as So it was definitely one of them things.
Did you have a lot of alternative item type questions thrown at you at all?
This past time, I had a fill in the blank.
Yeah,
and they were
interesting.
And then there was another one on one of the previous ones. I had something about the structural depth. It was something about the maximum. You were given a bunch of profiles of walls, masonry walls, and you had to pick. I can't exactly remember the questions, but you had to select the walls that were applicable. And you clicked on me, like they highlighted before you clicked on them, and you clicked on them, then they put a check mark on there like you selected them.
But that was it. So not too many.
Yeah, I didn't really see too many on my end. I mean, I was filling the blanks and then selected all that apply. And then you had a couple check. Then you do that ones where you have the check boxes, like you reading, like that one was like this past one was the OSHA, you said one of the OSHA standards. I can't remember what it was about, but they said select all that apply, and it did see in parentheses it should be no more than 3 answers.
Okay. And you mentioned like these 3 questions, and I've always told people they're going to be surprised at how many they're going to throw at you. Were you surprised about how many they threw at you? And was it somewhere like 10 to 15 in the morning and the same in the afternoon?
This time around, yeah, there was a lot more theory questions than I was expecting. Apparently I must have answered right. But yeah, they were about equal. Because I think this one I only had 38 questions for the break, and then I had 42 the rest. I was like, I know they used to always be 40 and 40, but I know the computer one, they changed it up. So yeah, it was I'd say about equal. There was not as less code intensive questions as I thought there would be the previous times. I know that's one of the things I noticed, like they'd have something based out of either the ASC or IBC or ACI. I mean, they would ask like certain questions, and you just had to find it in a section that they were talking about, or you just had to look it up in the index and you found it.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy that you got this thing over with. It's been awesome. I'm just curious, as you went through our course, or if there was a friend that was going to ask you which course today, why would you suggest to them taking the Civil Engineering Academy course?
One, all the resources you do get when you apply to it, the vast amount of resources you got with talking to people like you or your other experts, you have run other courses. That Facebook page is helpful because you get questions, you post them. A lot of times people answered. I know that I can't remember her name on the one. She usually always answered my question.
Francisca.
Yeah,
It's right there.
So like stuff like them. Yeah, them were always helpful because I know I know when I would ask questions, I know previous time exams, I had questions that I vaguely remembered the concept, and I would ask, and someone said, "Oh, that's what this is." Like one was like a beam had springs as the supports, and for the life of me, I probably have not looked at any kind of problem like that in probably since my fourth or fifth year of college, and I'm like, oh, and I know I missed that question because I could not remember. And then once they showed me how to do it, I'm like, wow, that was actually a lot easier than what I thought. Typical. But basically all of that stuff there was always helpful. Like I said, like we heard earlier, I have about for your class, for the CEA class alone, I probably have about 10 to 11 binders of each individual concepts, which I know obviously with the change that kind of drastically changed, but I'm not going to obviously get rid of that material because it's always something useful in the future.
Right. Yeah,
so I'll just put it in a storage bin and just keep it on file. There's no sense of getting rid of them. And like I said before too, that exam simulator was another reason too. Well, at the time I didn't know until I registered that was something that was included, which that's definitely one of the biggest, but it's a good perk to have.
Yep. Well, awesome. Yeah, it's good to hear that. I'm glad we could help you. I'm glad you found us. I'm glad you were able to get over the hurdle of passing this thing after so many attempts. I think that's just awesome that you're able to do that. Well, I'm excited for you. We better wrap this thing up, though. If there are questions that people had, maybe they wanted to reach out to you, maybe to get some advice about taking the exam, what would be a good way to reach out to you, Justin?
Again, like you said before, when you were talking, I think before this started, was like we can use LinkedIn. I do have my profile. It's just my name. As I know, I'm able to put PE behind it. The Facebook page. I'm still pretty vocal and interactive with that group. I know there's previous months I know a couple people have had questions. One was a structural question, and I explained to the person what I thought the question was asking. It was kind of like a little trick question, I thought, and he looked at it one way, I looked at it another. But I'm pretty active with that group. Hey, people help me, I'll help them back.
Yeah, that's what it's there for. Anyone that joins our course will get access to that private community, and that never goes away. So we appreciate people coming back on, checking out what other people's questions are as a way to pass it forward, I guess. But awesome. Well, Justin, thank you for doing this with me. Appreciate you sharing your experience. I'm so happy that you passed this exam, and time to go get that raise, I guess.
Yeah. I appreciate you asking me to do this, and you definitely have a good thing going. I think I made that clear. I think I said that on the Facebook page group. Yeah. I said it's definitely. There's and obviously technology thing. More and more things are going to advance and going to be more helpful.
You're right. Definitely, got to stay ahead of it. Got to get on it, and you got to stay ahead of it. The NCES, which changes stuff all the time, so it's fun.
Yep.
Anyway, well, thanks, Justin, for doing this, and we will talk to you later.
Yep, thank you. Yep, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.